Good morning everyone. I am Dr. Mohit Kumar Tiwari. I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Applied Science and Humanities in Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad, Lucknow. Today's my topic is the flow of communication. The flow of communication. Dear, the question comes to our mind very first, that what is communication, and if the word flow is added with the word communication, then what is the meaning that comes from the sentence, the flow of communication? As you all know that there is a great significance of communication in our life, rather we should say in our daily life. Every time we are known, we are called, we are remembered, we are shared just by the way we communicate. So the question comes, what is an communication? So before I go in deep with the word communication first, I would like to focus on some of the points which are related to the flow of communication first. So here it is content. Firstly, we will have an introduction, then we will have a little discussion on the types of communication, its advantages and its disadvantages. Then we will have some focus on the forms of communication. After that, we will go in deep with our main topic called the flow or dimensions of communication with its advantages and disadvantages. As we know that the word communication has been derived from the Latin word communicare. Communicare. Let me mark. Communicare, which means to share or exchange. Which means to share or exchange what? Our information, news, feelings, sentiments, emotions, etc. The word communication is done with the help of the language. We can also say that communication is a two-way process in which one is the sender and another one is the receiver. The sender sends the message. The receiver receives the message. While sending the message, the sender encodes the message. The receiver decodes it, taking the feedback, providing the response then to the sender. While sending from the receiver side, the receiver becomes the sender and the sender becomes the receiver, and vice versa. This is called the process of communication. Earlier, if you go in the primitive ages, we see that our ancestors or early men used to talk with the help of the sign language. But with the requirement, we developed the words, the sentences, the paragraphs with the help of a language. So, language here is helping us. Language here is helping us as a tool to communication. Language is helping us as a bridge to communication. So, there is a vital role of the language. Vital role, very significant role of the language is there. The communication, although it can be done without the help of the language also, but with the help of the language, we can say that our communication becomes more and more effective. The chances of misunderstanding or miscommunication are very less when we do our communication with the help of the language, and when we compare this with the sign language or the body language. Body language is another area. I will discuss on this topic, body language, on some another lecture. Although I can brief that body language consists of our eye contact, facial expressions, our gestures, postures, movement of the hand, shrug of the shoulders, blinking of the eyes, blowing eyes, shaking of the legs, so many other ways. During communication process, we face various types of barriers and challenges in our daily life. If I am communicating with you all right now, I may face many barriers. I may face the sound of the fan. I may face the malfunctioning of the caller mic. The electricity may go. This pen stops working. This key starts, or I can say that stops working. So, barriers are of many times. They can come anywhere, anytime, in any of the way. So, that is what it is written over here. Word barriers and challenges in our daily life. When a teacher is teaching in the class, the students are talking. That becomes the barrier to the effective lecture to the class. For example, you are studying at your home and suddenly the loudspeakers were on from your neighbor's side. That becomes the barrier in the part of your concentration and also the interest part towards your studies. So, barriers are of many types. Maybe the room temperature becomes the barrier. Too much hot, too much cold. So, barriers can be of any type. So, we can face challenges in our life anytime. One can understand one's communication only if he is aware of that particular language. I can say over here that if I belong to India, or I can say if I belong to Lucknow, the language of Lucknow, the communication of Lucknow may differs with the communication of the people living in Bengal. So I may face the challenges of the communication part because I am not aware with that particular accent or the language spoken over there. So that also becomes the barrier at times. If one is speaking and one is not able to understand, then there is no communication. Communication is only done, or we can say that the communication happens if one understands you what you are saying. Then only we can say that there is a communication. In another paragraph, we see that there are several ways, types, flow and process of communication. We, the human beings, being social creature, do need to convey our ideas to our friends, neighbors, colleagues and subordinates. Friends. Here, as the word, you can say being social creature. We say that man is a social animal. If we find ourselves superior to other sorts of species, then it is just because we are having this communication with the help of the language. Although the language is there with another species also, but that language is limited to them only. They cannot transfer their communication or experiences to our coming generation. They cannot keep record also, but we can. That is why we say that we are superior from other sorts of species. So there are several ways to define the importance, significance or the relevance of the communication part, which is done with the help of the language. So language, we can say, is the mean, mode and medium of communication. Language is the mean, mode and medium of communication. Since composition, we can see over here, when I say that since communication presupposes a definite objective, since communication presupposes a definite objective, it has its own science and art. I repeat, since communication presupposes a definite objective, it has its own science and art, because we are able to presuppose it. In advance, we can think of, we can feel of. One must learn and practice the skill of effective communication in order to succeed in the modern world. So, secondly, we can say one of the greatest symbol and gift of communication is its language, and no communication is complete without this semantic symbol called language. So, communication can be enlightening as well as misleading depending upon one's skill and proficiency. In both the ways. What? Communication can be enlightening also. Communication can enlighten you, enhance your knowledge, upgrade your knowledge, can inform you, can be informative, but as well as misleading also depending upon one's skill and proficiency. It can mislead you also. It depends on the situation and the person, how he talks to you, how he communicates to you, what is his intention. Next, types of communication. There are basically two types of communication: formal communication and informal communication. What is formal communication? Let me brief. Formal communication is that type of communication which is official in nature, means it is a flow of information through formally established channels in an organization. These types of communication may be oral or written also, and formal communication is hierarchical in nature. It is hierarchical in nature and associated with the superior subordinate relationship. It is greatly expected in the field when our superiors are there, and also to subordinate relationship. So, formal communication is an official communication. It is a flow of information through formally established channel in an hierarchical way. We cannot surpass. We should follow the chain system also during our formal communication. Generally, this communication generally linked with formal status and position of a person. Formal communication linked with formal status and position of a person. Like in office, I cannot be informal. At the public place, at the public speaking point, I cannot be informal. I have to be formal. I have to show my professional ethics. Whether I am willing or not willing doesn't matter. I have to behave professionally with professional ethics. Next, advantages of formal communication. There are several advantages of formal communication. If to my senior person I say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good day, hello, bye, dear sir, respected sir, yours sincerely, yours obediently, yours faithfully, yours lovingly. If I am making use of all these terms during the requirement in different way during our communication part, then I will be welcomed as an good society person or literate person. There are some points. Let's see. The orderly flow of information and systematic. It is advantage is orderly flow. This type of communication flow in order. The information flows in order and they are systematic. Helps in fixing responsibilities for better efficiency. They helps in fixing the responsibility, the accountability for our best efficiency. It also helps in maintaining authority relationship. Formal communication maintain authority relationship. Maintains the discipline of the institute, organization, or any of the company. the flow of instruction is very specific, clear and definite. I cannot make fool to anyone. I cannot make fool to anyone when I am doing formal communication. So, I cannot be ambiguous even during formal communication. So, I have to be specific, clear and definite. I should be sure about what I am saying, what I am conveying. Next, as we know that a coin has two sides. Similar way, everything has two sides. Its advantages also and disadvantages also. Merits also, demerits also. Let's see about the drawback or the disadvantage of the formal communication. Formal communication is time consuming process. It takes time. In a general communication, we can talk in a general way. We don't need even to think of. We don't need to filter our words first and then takes out. But in formal communication, I have to filter first in my abstract word and then I have to take out. So that's why it is a time consuming process. It lacks personal contacts and relationship. If I am formal, if I am official, I am official and formal for everyone in my organization, in my institution. If I am given some post, if I am appointed on any of the honorable posts, I have to work, I have to abide by the laws of that post. If I am working in any of the organization, I have to abide by the rules and regulation of that organization. I cannot be personal over there. So in that condition, it is the drawback. I may not able to receive my friend who is waiting for me and I am having my lecture. I am having the meeting with my seniors, with my HOD, Dean, Director. He or she has to wait. Even if my mother and father came to meet to me, they also have to follow the procedure, the protocol to meet to me. That's why this line says it lacks personal contacts and relationships. This is the drawback. It may be resisted and distorted. It may resist you and distort you. It delays the communication message due to the formal procedure. Since the protocol is there, the hierarchy is there, so it may delay the message also. It will take the time because I am not doing any diagonal communication. Over here, I cannot do the diagonal communication. I cannot surpass anyone. I have to follow the procedure. So it is the drawback. It delays. So it is the drawback. It is the disadvantage of formal communication. Next, communication, that is informal communication. Informal communication refers to communication on the basis of personal relations. Here, we can say that informal communication refers to communication on the basis of personal relation. It is a type of communication which is unstructured, unofficial and unplanned. Means general communication. I can give time to my friends, to my mother, father, brother, sister, society person, anyone. I can talk in any of the way under informal communication. I can be subjective, like in formal communication I am very objective and precise. Here I can be subjective, I can be ornamental, I can be generic, I can be rhetorical. Next, it does not follow the formal channels established by the management. If I am friendly to any of the one, if I am informal to any of the one, I don't require any channel to meet to that person. I don't need any protocol to meet that person. Many times, even in official manner also, many times many of the dignitaries at times follow this informal communication in order to show that person that you are more valuable for me than these protocols. That type of greeting, when one receives from you, they feel themselves very overwhelmed and deeply honored. So, we cannot totally deny that informal is not essential in our formal communication. At times, the requirement of informal is also there. So, it does not follow the formal channels established by the management, I have explained. Then it often flows between friends and intimates and related to person rather than positional matters. Position doesn't matter over here. One can be, for example, one can be DM or IS or PCS also. But if you are my friend, you are friend for me. Like we have seen in the Mahabharata, the relation between the prince Duryodhan and the Karna. Before being, Duryodhan said that before being the prince of this kingdom Hastinapur, I am friend first. So that devotion till his last breath Karna also has given to Duryodhan. Till his last breath. Even after knowing that Pandavas are their brothers. See the importance, we can say, of informal communication at times, how bigger it becomes than formal at times, not every times. Now, advantages of informal communication: it is flexible and reliable channel of communication, very flexible, no tension. We feel free. It creates mutual cooperation. We understand each other well. If we are formal, I may hesitate in conveying my feelings to you, my sentiments, feelings, or any type of thoughts or ideas to discuss with you. But if we are friend, we are informal, I can share my personal problems from you also, my family problems from you also. It is helpful in building teamwork in the organization. In organization, it is helpful in building teamwork also. Informally, I can become the friend to any work. I can say that I can become the friend to anyone to get any of the work done through my informal communication. Like the sweeper who is sweeping in the organization, if I am giving some time to him in a respective way, he may do that sweeping work twice or thrice also, just because you being an authority, giving your time, precious time to him also, you are asking for his well-beings also. So that's way you can say it helps in building teamwork also in the organization. Quickly you can make friends. Very quickly you can make friends, and you can make your team, and you can become the leader of your team also. Depends on the qualities of the leadership also. It provides effective feedback to the manager. It provides effective feedback to the managers. Means what really you think about the organization or the company, that comes out during informal communication, and that's where the manager is getting the effective feedback from you also. Next, Disadvantage of informal communication: it creates misunderstanding and uncertainty. Many times, mostly misunderstanding and uncertainty is there during informal communication. It is difficult to believe in information as it is the source cannot be identified. Really, it is difficult to believe under informal communication whether it's true, fact or false. It sometimes leads to leak secret information. Many secret information are being leaked through this informal type of communication. The information passes through, it is inaccurate and distorted. The information which passes through this are considered as inaccurate and distorted. So these are the disadvantages of informal communication. Next, there are some forms also: verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Let me conclude. Verbal communication is an exchange of information by words, either by written or oral. There are two types: oral communication and written communication. Verbal communication. Okay. When we say something verbally, we are speaking out, then that is called oral communication, means face to face communication is done. Electronic mode such as telephone, cellular phone, oral communication is done. When we write down something, after writing something we present, then that is called written communication. For example, they are expressed through the charts, pictures and diagrams, newspaper reports, letters, circulars, magazine. While using written communication, words should be selected very carefully. You can say that this is the drawback or this is the advantage also, that the word should be selected very carefully, because message once said cannot be altered. It is formal in nature and cannot be overlooked. So we should be very, under verbal communication, we can say that quite activeness, alertness is required while speaking also and while writing down also. Next, we have our main topic now, that is called the flow dimension of communication. The flow or dimension of communication. Now coming there to our main topic. Earlier was the information about the communication part. Now, what is the flow of communication? Any organization that is set up, any of the organization, institution, company, requires communication. What type of communication? Formal communication channels are there. Formal communication channels are there. The process is there, the protocol is there, the hierarchy is there, the chain is maintained. The chain is maintained. So first we have downward communication. Downward communication is also called vertical communication. I will explain later how. First, see what is downward communication. Communication that takes place from the superior to subordinates in a chain of command is known as downward communication. Such type of communication may be in the form of orders, instruction, policies, program, etc. It may be written or verbal. Downward communication is such type of communication which is communicated from the higher level to the lower level without surpassing anyone. The protocol or the hierarchy is maintained. Let me take one example to understand this better. For example, yes, VC, Vice Chancellor, Director, Dean, HOD, faculty, students. what we see, if Vice Chancellor wants to convey something to the students, he will first convey that to the director, and director to the dean, dean to all the HODs of the institution, and HOD to the faculty members and faculty to the students. So this way we see the message is coming from Vice Chancellor to the student this way. So that is why it is written vertical. Vertical is written. That is why vertical, it was written over here. Vertical communication. So from higher level to the lower level, the message is conveyed, the protocol is followed, means the hierarchy is maintained. We have not broken the chain system is followed. So that is called downward communication or downward flow of communication. Sorry. The following messages are induced in this type of communication. In this type of communication. Confirmation regarding performance, work assignment and directions, orders, guidance and responsibilities, ideological type of information, organization, procedure and practices. Organization, procedures and practices. So under downward communication, we see confirmation regarding performance, work assignment and direction. Directions are given, works are assigned, confirmation is given. Regarding performance also the things are noticed, orders are given, guidance and responsibilities, ideological type of information, organization, procedures and practices. These comes our downward communication. During downward communication, all this can be communicated. Advantage of downward communication. What is the advantage? It is helpful in controlling the subordinates. We can control. We can say the more discipline is there. If the things are in a protocol way, in a formal way. So during downward communication, it is helpful in controlling the subordinates. It explains the plans and the policies of the organization to employees. It is a tool to delegate authority. It is helpful to tie among employees at a different level. It encourages the effectiveness of upward communication through feedback. It helps in preparing the people to introduce change. Downward communication is very helpful for the organization as it is having a command, a control over the subordinates. The policies can be explained through different channels. Different channels, I means from VC to the director and from director to the dean, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, director academics, director administration, HOD of electrical department, mechanical department, civil department, IT department, CSIT department and applied science department, HOD. In that way, it is said, that is why it is said, it is a tool to delegate authority. It is helpful among employees at a different level. It also encourages the effectiveness of the upward communication. The effectiveness of the upward communication also increases over here. It helps in preparing the people to introduce change. Next, disadvantage of downward communication. There are some disadvantages also. If the chain is followed, if the hierarchy is maintained, if the protocol is maintained, then some disadvantage of downward communication is also there. It tends to promote one-way communication, like whatever the higher authority wants to convey, he has conveyed. I as a student have got no chance to talk to him to further, to inquire, to clear, to inform. So it is called one-way communication. It is time consuming also, like here, time consuming also because the message is conveyed to the director, director to dean, dean to HOD, HOD to faculty, faculty to student. So that way it is time consuming also because information passes through various levels. Sometimes a manager may filter the information or hold back some of the information due to fear that it might be unpalatable. Means anyone can hold the information also. If anyone has hold the information due to any of the reason, then also the information is delayed, or if some changes occur in between, then also the wrong information, या partial information, या half information or the false information may be forwarded. Maybe. So, sometimes I explained, as communication takes time, sometimes message become ineffective and can lose significance. The message can become ineffective also. It may lose its original taste. It may lose its original words. As the Vice Chancellor has said, maybe the original words not come in that way to us as he wants to convey to us. This is the drawback. This is the disadvantage of the downward communication. Next comes our upward communication. Upward communication, let me explain with the help of that example about upward communication. Upward communication is just the reciprocate of this. We see like this. If a student wants to say something, he will first convey that message to faculty, faculty to HOD, HOD to dean, dean to director, and then to vice chancellor. If a student wants to convey something, to share something, to communicate something with the vice chancellor, he has to follow the channel. Or if the student even if want to convey to HOD, he cannot directly move to HOD, he has to follow the protocol, he has to first say to the faculty. So that way it is also called as upward communication, is also called as vertical. Upward communication. Here also we see that the message is being conveyed from the lower level to the higher level without breaking the chain. The hierarchy is maintained, the protocol is maintained. So that is what we have in upward communication. When messages are transmitted from the bottom to the top of the organization hierarchy, it is known as upward communication. The main function of upward communication is to supply information to the top management. It is essentially participative in nature and can flourish only in a democratic organizational environment. It may be in the form of progress reports, suggestions, grievances, complaints. If you have any sort of complaint, a student is having any sort of complaint, he may convey to faculty, faculty to HOD, HOD, dean, dean to director, director to the vice chancellor. So this is what called upward communication. This way the discipline is maintained, the hierarchy is maintained, the formal channel is there. Everyone has to abide by that process. No breakage of rules are there. We see the advantages. First, management can use feedback effectively, their plan and procedures. Through upward communication, we can use feedback effectively in their plan and procedures. Help subordinate to communicate their views to top management. Subordinate can talk to his senior and can pass the message so on to the top management. It supports innovative ideas and suggestion. It also supports innovative ideas. If you have any of the ideas, student is having any innovative idea, he can forward that to even vice chancellor through the channel. Support in harmony and mutual cooperation among management and the subordinates. The harmony is maintained, the mutual cooperation is maintained through the process of the upward communication. The managers are able to evaluate the impact of communication. The managers are able to evaluate the impact of the communication. The managers can easily evaluate the impact of the communication by following this upward communication. This is the advantage of the upward communication. Next Next, we see that there are disadvantages of upward communication. Now, what is the disadvantage of upward communication? We see subordinate provides only favorable information to upper management. Yes, it happens. The things which are good, by which I can receive some praise from the higher authorities, only those messages are being forwarded, by which I will be stable, I will be safe. At times, those informations are only forwarded to upper management. It may be discouraged due to the lack of the proper response of the top management. It may be discouraged also due to the lack of the proper response of top management. It takes a lot of time to pass the message to the higher level. Of course, it takes a time. Like in downward communication, the message from the higher level to the lower level, time taking, time consuming. That's why from the in the upward communication also, it is time consuming. Possibility of willful manipulation of information to attain personal goals. Yes. Possibility of willful manipulation. Possibility of willful manipulation of information to attain personal goal in order to get my own selfish objective. I can manipulate the thing also. There arises a threat that superiors may react negatively. Yes, there arises a threat that superiors may react negatively. So, at times we do this also due to this fear and this. Just because of threat, we start doing this way and this way. Next, horizontal communication. Horizontal communication. Let me explain. We see over here with this example that if the things are communicated in between students to students, faculty to faculty, HOD to HOD, means the person of the same rank, of the same position person. When the communication is done in between the person of the same position or the same rank, then that type of communication is called horizontal communication. That's why here the word horizontal is used, because it is having horizontally of the same level, same rank, same position. Horizontal. When communication takes place between two or more persons who are working at the same level, it is known as horizontal communication. At the same level when the people are working. This type of communication takes place mostly during a committee meeting or conference. The main object of such communication is to establish interdepartmental coordination during the meetings. As the word meeting is written over here, during a committee meeting, there we share ideas to develop the organization, the pros and cons of the organization, the plus and minus of the organization. So that way, the main object of such communication is to establish interdepartmental coordination. That we should develop our interpersonal skills also. We should maintain our interpersonal relationship. And through this horizontal type of communication, since we had a feeling that we are at same levels, so we share without fear so many those things also which are necessary for the development of the organization. That way, ultimately our organization grow. Advantages of horizontal communication: it helps in avoiding duplication of work. Very important. It helps in avoiding duplication of work. It solves interdependent conflicts. Since we are at the same level, we may be able to solve our interpersonal conflicts also. Then it facilitates establishing coordination between different departments of the organization. Through this channel, we can maintain a good relation with other department persons also. Communication process is computed smoothly without any barrier, and in horizontal communication, we don't feel that the senior persons are there or the subordinates are there. We feel that we are at the same level and we discuss freely so many good things and so many those things also which are bad but are necessary to be discussed. It helps in maintaining social and emotional support among the peer group. If I am having some emotional problem, family problem, if I share, maybe my group person, some of the peer person can suggest me some good that I am able to solve, I am able to resolve that problem. Next, disadvantage of horizontal communication, there is a lack of motivation to communicate. This is the disadvantage, lack of motivation to communicate. Usually they hide information due to rivalry between them. The information is being hidden. If the rivalry is there, it lacks authoritativeness. So this is the disadvantage of horizontal communication. Lack of motivation to communicate, rivalry and authoritativeness. Next, diagonal or crosswise communication. It is diagonal or crosswise just because, see, if a student is having any problem, he may say that I know HOD directly, I can talk to HOD directly, I can pass, I can talk, I can communicate to HOD directly. He is surpassing the faculty, he is giving no importance to faculty here. So, if that way the communication is done, that is why it is said the crosswise communication. He may also directly contact to dean, director or vice chancellor. That's why. So, diagonal communication or crosswise communication is an exchange of information between the person at a different level across the department lines, as I told. This type of communication is used to spread information at different levels of an organization to improve understanding and coordination, so to achieve organizational objectives. Next. Thus, where the person who are neither working in the same department nor has similar level are communicating, it is said to be diagonal communication. It cuts across the level of organizational structure. We can communicate to the person of the other department also through the process of diagonal communication. It has some advantages like increases organizational effectiveness, facilitates organizational change, creates integrity, harmony in the organization. It helps to speed up the action and save time. It saves time. If the student is having any problem and if he wants to done on the fixed time, so if the work is to be done by the HOD, if he is directly moving to the HOD and getting the work done on the given time, then that is saving the time. Rather, he should consult to the faculty, which may take time. So, speedy type of action is there, speed up action. So, diagonal communication is at time a very good communication also. If the work is to be done by the vice chancellor, the student is directly communicating to the vice chancellor, ignoring this chain. It saves times, it consumes times. Sorry, it saves times. Next, if The advantages are there, the disadvantages are also there. Now what are those disadvantages? It violates the principle, the unity of command. It is an unsystematic manner of communication. Yes, of course, the diagonal communication violates. I am surpassing, I am crossing, I am not following the chain, I am not abide by the rules of the organization. I am directly communicating to the concerned person without paying attention to those who also come under those, who also come under those authority by which I have to move. But I am not moving through those passage. I am directly moving by ignoring or surpassing those authorities to whom I was supposed to communicate it first, but I am directly communicating to the fourth authority or the fifth authority first. So this is the disadvantage of diagonal communication. So let me summarize the flow of communication. The flow of communication plays a very significant role in our organization, because through this, the flow of communication, the protocol is maintained, the hierarchy is maintained, the chain of processes there, the rules and regulations are there by which everyone has to abide by, either the sweeper part or the most higher authority part. Everyone has to abide by the rules and the regulations of those organizations. So the flow of communication is required. Under those flow, the downward from the higher level to the lower level when the message is conveyed, maintaining the chain, maintaining the hierarchy, that is called downward communication. And when the communication is done from the lower level to the higher level, maintaining the chain, hierarchy is maintained, protocol is maintained, then that is called upward communication. Horizontal communication, which is done in between the person of the same level, same position, same rank. The diagonal communication, which is done by surpassing one of the position and directly moving to the higher authority by ignoring to the authority which comes under that higher authority, which was required. But diagonal communication is at times also required in order to save the time, in order to get the work done in a speed up way. So here I summarize. This is all about the communication part and the flow of the communication part. I hope you all have enjoyed, and I can also hope that you have also upgraded your knowledge through this discussion. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.